We are live. We looked pretty professional earlier. It's been a long day. We were fortunate to go to church and then get ready for our open house, do some paperwork, and now we are here wanting to check in with you to share something that might be helpful to some of you in tight negotiations. What we've been dealing with lately is that people will offer way above asking or asking price, right? Oh, I'll give you asking, or 5,000 over asking, or X amount over asking price because it's very competitive. But then once they get that first position, they start nitpicking and demanding a lot of things. So, okay, yes, you offered full price, and yes, the house needs some things. But one of the things I recently went through was we had a house. We know what kind of condition it is in. It's in very good condition. We priced it fairly for the market. And the buyers, I had the listing. The buyers were like, well, we had a couple roofers drive by and look at the roof from the ground, and they think there's 3 to 4 years left on it.
From the ground.
And when it's a 16-year-old roof. Now here in Corpus Christi, when you have a 30-year composite shingle, and it's a decent shingle, some of them are not as good quality, but when there's a nice, decent, thick shingle roof, those 30-year roofs usually last about 20 years, could be a little less, could be more. I've seen them last 22, 24 years. Okay. More often than not, you'll have to replace some flashing or some vents that got rusty, or some damaged shingles from trees or got blown off during storms. But they're like, well, we want, $6,000 for half of a new roof. And we're like, no, we're not. No. And so we had a roofer walk the roof, and he said, well, on the top of the roof, it's called a ridge cap. Okay. And he said, these have cracked, over time between the heat, and then this freeze probably kind of took them over the edge because they become very brittle over time. And so anyway, so we said, no, we'll take care of the ridge caps, and you guys will be fine. It's got a good 5 years, give or take, on it. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, right? And they kept going on and on about how it's only 3 to 4 years, and they didn't think the roof, all this to be said, but it was a bunch of hypothetical. Yeah. And so we were going in circles with these hypotheticals, and it's like, no, you deal with what we're dealing with now for the fair price with what you're getting, and you move forward. Yeah, I'd like a new refrigerator. Yeah, I'd like, a new appliance.
Think about it. If you were to use that analogy to something else, it's like
a dishwasher or an oven.
If you're going to buy a used car, right, you look at the outside of the car looks in great shape, right? The paint's a little worn out from the sun and the conditions and the rain. And you say, well, I'm only going to give you $5,000 instead of $10,000 because this car is 10 years old. And the engine, even though I haven't seen the engine, I haven't climbed inside the engine, opened the hood and look at the engine. The engine's going to last another 5 years, which is totally unfair.
It's not based in reality.
It's not based on anything, any true knowledge in terms of how long that engine is going to last. Same thing goes with the roof. So it was pretty. So when I heard that story, I was laughing a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's disappointing because, I understand you want to negotiate high and then try to get money back because that's the only way to really get that first position. But, ideally, as real estate agents, we want to give our buyers realistic expectations. If you have a working air conditioning unit and it's functioning as intended, it might be 15 years old. I've had one be like 19 years old and it was still working fairly well. Sure, it wasn't as energy efficient, but you can't go ask for a new air conditioner because one is old and it may die now or it might die in 3 to 5 years.
And you haven't really inspected the air conditioner to determine.
No, we did.
No, I'm talking about the other people. They said, they didn't climb on the roof, is that right?
Right, on the roof situation.
Right, that's what I'm talking about,
but even if we did inspect that air conditioner, right, we don't know if it's going to be living another 3 months or 3 years. And so what we do is we offer a home warranty. On a roof, you can't do that. But ideally, you have a real estate agent who has reputable people out in different fields like plumbers, electricians, roofers that give them the honest opinion. And in this case, I have a roofer that I've used twice on my personal, on our personal roofs. And I can't even tell you how many other times on other roofs. I've used other roofers as well, but sometimes here in Corpus Christi, a lot of the roofers don't have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And in Corpus Christi, they are not licensed. They are not licensed contractors. They don't have to be. So when you have one that knows what they're doing, and in our case, he used to inspect roofs for insurance, so he's familiar with roofs and their lifespan more than, let's say, a roof salesman.
And he didn't have any vested monetary incentive to say whether it's good or not. He literally climbed up there and gave his honest opinion because he had nothing. We just asked him, "Can you please go up there and look at the roof?"
That's the truth.
Yeah.
So and I explained that, and he had looked at a roof of ours that was only 13 years old, and it looked like a really good 30-year shingle, but it turned out that our shingles were defective. And it was only 13 years old, and it was like, what? And he was like, I hate to tell you this, but your shingles are defective. They're totally worn. And I'm like, that's a bummer. So anyway, negotiate fairly. Yeah, you may not, if you wanted a new air conditioner and a new roof and fresh paint and this and that, go spend another 30 to 50 grand. But if you want to get a good deal and get something more cost effective, then recognize what you have and don't lose it because you have wrong expectations. Okay. So that was just our little thing, I mean, you might want to share about Aaron's two houses. One was in a better neighborhood and newer, and the other wasn't, and how one was built better.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to see 2 homes. The one that he saw online, he really liked the curb appeal and everything else, but it was priced just $30,000.
It was $379.
Yeah, $379.
And it was 300 square feet smaller.
Right, smaller than the other one. But again, the house looked impeccable for a few little things. So we went to another home that he liked also.
Yeah, we really liked that one. The size and the floor plan and everything was great.
However, the backyard wasn't done very well.
No big deal.
But then whenever you drive into that area, you felt a sense of being like cramped, like this. The roads were very, very narrow. It looked very nice and manicured, but you had a different vibe to the neighborhood also. When Jackie was looking at the house before we left, she goes to the back of it and she starts looking at the siding of the home.
The hardy board.
The hardy board. And I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for her in the car. So I can see her literally with her hands going like this and lifting it up and lifting it up and lifting it, looking at it.
It's like pulling right off and hanging there.
What is she doing? I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, you can tell like they were very, very loose. So
and the stucco cracks all over.
Yeah. So what happened is you end up calling the realtor to find out, hey, what was going on? The realtor had no knowledge whatsoever.
Oh, well, claim that they had no knowledge.
Right.
But then they later said that they had gotten a bid for the stucco, and then they weren't sure, and that's why anyway, it was interesting. So.
It was very interesting, and not to say anything negative about the other realtor, but when you lived in a home,
it made us feel uncomfortable.
Right. You need to know everything about the home. We're not saying anything about the credibility or the honesty of that salesperson, but that's in the wrong signal. So Lord behold, we went to the other home.
Okay, can I interject real quick? Yeah. So in light of what you said, what we started really talking about was evaluating, okay, we like the 300 square feet of additional space, which is, just felt more spacious.
Yeah.
But we had known there was a plumbing leak a few years before, and then we saw the stucco cracks, and then
there was another claim that was never actually insurance claim.
And then he said it was for the outside, but didn't really want to say if it was for the hardy board or the stucco. And so what we started kind of mulling around on was the quality of construction.
Yeah.
We were becoming uncomfortable with the quality of construction on this property.
Her voice is getting very sexy, very raspy. Keep going.
No.
Keep going.
So, yes, we have fun together. And
sorry.
So anyway, that being said, we're talking about recognizing how to pick your battles. In this case, we just became too uncomfortable with all these undisclosed and then disclosed issues that led us to believe that the bigger one that was a better deal for 20 grand, 25 grand less was going to be more of a money problem once you got in it, because it was rented and there was leaks, and we thought it would just be the gift that keeps on giving. So
yeah, so the lesson about this is that, we did our due diligence by not only looking at the siding, but also we went to call to find out there were any claims on the property. Number one.
yeah,
So
we called our insurance.
right. So we have facts in there that will allow us to make a smart decision regarding whether it should be the best property for our client to move forward or not. So we just present all the facts to the client. You have this house right here with A, B, and C, the siding, the claims, the location, they like it too much. So you can tell a big difference from the first example from the roof that they never climbed in there versus when we went out there and did our study to find out which property was best. Plus, when we went back to the property, which was smaller, but yet in a better location for them, and better quality construction. They didn't have any neighbors next to them. And perfectly, I mean, we didn't think if the people lived in the house or not, because it was totally immaculate. We come to find out they actually live in the house, and the house wasn't staged. So that is sending you the right information, because
they've taken care of the home.
They have taken care of the home on every single aspect. The only thing we found is that we need to replace the
window glass
and the AC, the filter in the attic. Besides that, everything else was a better investment. So you can tell, in both cases, you can tell, say, a discrepancy between the two of them, because we actually knew more facts about one home than the other, and that allowed clients to make a better decision instead of just hypothesizing on how long the roof is going to last without doing any work.
Or how long the AC is going to last, or how. Now, on the nicer one, that was $25,000 more. We did have a failed window gasket, so it starts to fog up. There was the backflow was leaking, and there was a GFCI that was needed.
Yeah.
And we just asked for a credit for those items, mainly because it's too hard to get people to get out there in a timely manner. But in this case, it's like, if you're going to have us pay top dollar, then you better have a top dollar home, and not if in those issues that you have, you're going to pay for it, because we paid you for a property that is not supposed to have issues. Because, right? So you have to know the value of the property and this and that. So anyway, don't lose a house because you don't have the right understanding of what's going on, and don't hold on to a property because it's such a good deal that it might end up being a bad deal. So anything else, my love?
Just do your work. It's not the market as hot as the market is.
Don't be a fool.
And as a realtor and as a buyer, don't be afraid of walking out from a property once you have all the facts, because we're talking about it is the biggest investment you're ever going to make in your lifetime. Okay, as much as you like the home, ask questions, find out, get the facts, then you make the best decision.
Call insurance companies, see if there's been claims, stuff like that. And we joke around and tell people, hey, it's a lot easier to get married than it is to get divorced. So, get to know the property, do your homework, move forward in wisdom, not through emotions.
Yeah.
And evaluate, like, I might be in love with this house, but like shoes, it might be too small in a year or two. So don't force yourself into that, because it's not going to work.
And as a buyer or a seller, make sure you communicate with the agent as much as possible. Let them know about that example, that buyer that only communicated with the realtor.
No, we've talked enough. I'm too tired.
But it was pretty good. She only spoke to her agent like 4 or 5 times.
Once or twice. No, well, like 3 or 4 times, and they had no idea what was going on for like 3 months. So you don't want a real estate agent like that. If that's the case where you don't hear from them, but here and there, you need to go get a new real estate agent. So
call us. We're in Texas. We'll take care of you.
Corpus Christi, Houston. We're very protective. We're very experienced, and we will talk you out of something before we talk you into it. And you can trust us. So
we love dogs.
And if you're moving to Texas, we'll make sure you kind of get a good idea of the various areas that you could. Once you let us know kind of your criteria, then we'll tell you where we can go from there. Okay. So have a great day, and goodbye from Texas.
Yeah. Take care. See you, Coco.
Bye, Coco.